Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the Power Angle Pro. Now the Power Angle Pro has some arrows on it, and these arrows are references for the positions that we're going to go through in the golf swing. So as we make our move from position to position with the Power Angle Pro, these arrows are going to provide us everything that we need to know as far as whether we're correct in the golf swing. Okay, we're going to take our setup with the Power Angle Pro. Now with the Power Angle Pro, you're going to see that there's an arrow right here. There's also an arrow coming out of the end of the butt of the club here. And what we're going to do is take our grip, set up. I want you to put a golf ball on the ground so you can have a reference to where actually our ball position is, and also our target line, which is also going to be our plane line that we're going to monitor. When we set up, we're going to point this arrow at our golf ball, and this one here is going to point just left of the navel. So go ahead and work on that a little bit, get comfortable with it, and that will be your setup position. Okay, from our setup position, we're going to make the first move in the backswing, which is the takeaway. Now in the takeaway, all we're going to do is rotate the upper body, and we're going to monitor this arrow, and we're going to bring into the equation this arrow right here. So let me go ahead and take the setup, and I'm going to go ahead and rotate to the right until this arrow right here on the reference bar is parallel to my target line. And you're going to see it's a double arrow. It's going to be pointing down that way and pointing that way, but it will be parallel to my target line. Okay, let's take our setup again. Move to the takeaway. This is parallel to our target line. Now this arrow right here is going to be pointing at our target line, and this arrow coming out of the butt end of the grip here is going to be left of my navel. So let's go ahead and try that again. Parallel, pointing at my target line, left of the navel. These three references are there. I know I've made an on-plane takeaway. Okay, for my takeaway position, I'm now going to go ahead and set my wrist. And we're going to monitor this arrow and this arrow when we set our wrists. So all we're going to do is allow the right wrist to bend backwards until this arrow is parallel to our target line. Also, you'll see this arrow pointing at about a 45-degree angle down to our target line there. So I'm going to take it from my setup, move to the takeaway, and then hinge my right wrist back until this is parallel to my target line, and this arrow is pointing at about a 45-degree angle to my target line. Let's go ahead and try that a couple times. Setup, takeaway, set the wrists. Start from the setup, takeaway, set the wrist. That's all there is to it. Okay, from the position of where I've set my wrist, I'm going to go ahead and carry on up to the backswing. Now all we're going to do is rotate the upper body and allow the right arm to fold slightly until this reference bar touches it somewhere between the shoulder and the elbow joint. So let me go ahead and just take it from the setup here. We're going to go ahead and move to the takeaway, set the wrist, and I'm going to wind my upper body to the top of the backswing. I'm going to notice this arrow coming out of the butt end of the grip is going to be pointing right on my plane line here. That shows me that I have the club shaft on plane. So let's go ahead and take our setup, move to the takeaway, set the wrist, move to the top of the backswing. From here I can tell that I have an on-plane backswing. I've got all the width I need, everything is relaxed, I'm fully coiled, correct pivot, everything that I need for a correct backswing. So let's go ahead and take our setup here again, move to the takeaway, set the wrist, move to the top of the backswing. That's all there is to it. Just make sure you monitor all these references as you go from the setup to the top of the backswing. Okay, now that we've arrived at the top of the backswing, we're going to work on the downswing moves, which is the transition, the release, impact, and follow through. Okay, so let me go ahead and take my setup. I'm going to move to the takeaway position, set my wrists, move to the top of the backswing, and down to the transition. Now you notice that when I did that, I didn't allow this bar to come off my arm at all, because I don't want to release it early up here. Also, as I move down to the transition, you're going to see that this arrow is going to work down that target line right towards the golf ball. Okay? So let's go ahead and take our setup, move to the takeaway, set our wrists, top of the backswing, transition. Okay? Now that we've got to the transition position, we're going to go ahead and get to the release position. Now this is going to be a little tough for some of you folks because it's a little advanced, but I do want to show it to you because it is a key position in the golf swing. So let me go ahead and go through it once and then I'll demonstrate it and also show you how this works. Take our setup, takeaway, set the wrists, top of the backswing, transition. Now remember, in the transition, this arrow right here is going to be pointing down the target line and at my golf ball here. Now as I get to the release position here, I'm going to allow this bar to come off my upper arm to this position here, and I'll see that this arrow is parallel to my target line, and this one right here is still at about a 45 to that target line. So let's take our setup, move to the takeaway, set the wrist, top of the backswing, transition, down to the release point. Now again, that's an advanced position, and for you beginners out there or people that are just starting to build your backswing, we want you to stop at the transition. So let me go ahead and do it one more time there for you. Take away, set the wrist, top of the backswing, transition. Again, for most of you folks, that's where you're going to stop. Once you get that position down, you're going to go ahead and move to the release position here. Now, from the release position, we want to make sure, again, that we're monitoring that this arrow is parallel to our target line. We're going to actually move into impact where this arrow is going to point at the golf ball again. Now, as we move to impact, you're going to notice that the power angle is not going to come under this way here. It's actually going to feel like it's going out away from you in that direction. So, from the release position here, I'm going to go ahead and point this arrow back at my golf ball right there, and that gives me an impact position. Okay? Also, as we work down from the transition here, you're going to feel the sequence of the upper, lower, hands and arms working together. Because really what happens is once we make the transition move here, our hips are actually going to bump to the left a little bit when we make the transition. And then from there, our lower body is going to start to rotate out slightly as we bring it into the release position, and then it's going to rotate out a little bit slightly more as we bring it to impact. Okay? Now once we get to the impact position, we're going to go ahead and follow through to the follow-through position. And I'm going to show it to you first, and then we'll talk about it. So let's take our setup, move to the takeaway, set the wrist, top of the backswing, transition, release, impact, and follow through. Now the follow through position, we're going to see that this arrow is going to be 90 degrees to our target line. So let's try that one more time here. Take away, set the wrist, top of the backswing, transition, release, impact, follow through. Okay? And again, remember that the release, impact, and follow through positions are advanced positions. So you want to make sure that you get everything from the setup to the transition correct first. Okay? So I'm just going to show you that series of moves here. So let's go ahead and take our setup, move to the takeaway, set the wrist, top of the backswing, transition. Again, you want to monitor all these arrows to make sure that each position that you go through, that they're correct. It's very, very important in motor skill learning. Okay? So I'm going to go through it one more time here and show you all the positions. We'll talk a little bit about the arrows again to remind you. So let's go ahead and take our setup. Remember, the arrow's pointing at the golf ball. This arrow is left to my navel. Move to the takeaway position, parallel to the target line, pointing to the target line, left of the navel. Set my wrist, parallel to the target line, pointing at about a 45-degree angle to the target line. Top of the backswing, pointing at my target line, making sure that everything is connected here. It's on the upper part of my arm. Move to the transition, stays connected to the upper part of the arm. This is pointing at the golf ball. Release, it's off the arm, parallel to the target line. Impact, pointing at the golf ball. Follow through 90 degrees to the target line. So those are all the positions that you want to practice with the power angle.